Hi everyone, in this lecture we are going to create the renderQuestion function. Alright, but before going there we need to create some necessary variables. Think of them as state management in JavaScript, because we are going to create those here and then we will be changing their values throughout this entire application. There are going to be a lot. There are going to be like a few, not a lot, of course. The first variable that I want to create here is going to be our last question. I need to get the last question. The reason for that is whenever the last question is loaded, we are going to, whenever we are on the last question, we want right after that, we want to show our score container. All right, so the last question is going to be our questions array dot length -1. All right, so this is going to be our very last question, because the length dot array questions dot length is going to return 10. 10 minus 1 is going to be 9, and keep in mind 9 is the index of the last item inside an array. So we are accessing the index. The next variable that I want to create is going to be our active question. Now, what is the active question? Initially, I'm going to set it to 0. The active question is the question that the user is currently answering, or is the question that the user is actively answering. So if the user is answering question number 5 is going to be the active question. All right, and finally, I want our count to be 0. Okay, so I want the count to be initially 0. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and right in here, I'm going to create a comment and I'm going to call it, I'm going to write renderQuestion function. Now, renderQuestion is going to show or display our question on the page. All right, so we have created our questions, answers, all of that, but we need to display them on the page as well. So let's save it and let's check out our changes. So far, we don't see anything. The start button is not functional, which we are going to make it functional, of course. So I'm going to say function renderQuestion. There is not going to be any parameter. In here, I'm going to create another variable called queue. Right, and this queue is going to grab our questions array, and from there it is going to grab the active question. Right, so the active question is actually 0 at first. So if I pass in 0 here, it is going to grab the questions array and the item that has an index of 0. So which item does have an index of 0? It is the first item inside an array. Thus, it is going to load the first question. All right. Then we are going to grab our question, right? We are going to grab the question and we are going to say inner HTML. So what is going to be the question? So the question has already been specified right here. Oops. Why do I keep going up? So this is the question. So the question's inner HTML. The reason that we use inner HTML over inner text is whenever we want to create an HTML element, we are going to use inner HTML. All right, so this inner HTML is going to create for us an element with a starting tag and with an ending tag. So the starting tag is going to be a paragraph. Then we are going to add it. We are going to add our queue.question. All right, whichever question is the current question, and then we are going to close this element. All right, so we know this queue. The queue has a value of whatever item that has an index which is equal to our active question. All right, so why don't I go ahead and console.log the queue for you, so you really understand what exactly it is that we are grabbing. So if I, oops, not there, like console, and let's call this function down here. So I'm gonna say render question. That was a tongue twister. And we can see we get our very first question. And it says, how many different sounds can a cat make? Why do we get the first question? Because the active question value is 0, and if we pass 0 here, the array item that has an index of 0 is the first question. And the first question is going to be stored inside this queue, and we are going to console.log queue, and it is going to give us that. Now let's go ahead and let's console.log queue.question. And I'm gonna go back to active question. Let's say we need, and in this way we should be able to get the text for that question. Yes, we do get it. This is the first question. And when we do get the text, we want it to be inside a paragraph so we can show it on the page. That's why we say inner HTML. So inside here is going to be the text, and then we are going to add a starting tag and an ending tag, and this is going to become a valid HTML element, which is dynamically created through JavaScript. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab our answer choice A from which we have created right here, and I'm going to say dot inner HTML, because we are creating these elements dynamically, and we are going to say the value should be Q. Now the Q variable has access to the questions array. We know that. But what is the answer choice A? What should that be? It is the choice A itself. So we are going to say Q dot choice A, and we are going to create 3 more. So answer choice B is Q dot choice B. Answer choice C is going to be Q dot answer choice C. And okay, this is not answer choice, this is just choice. So let's grab the answer, let's remove it. This is, you know what, I'm just going to do it again. So Q dot okay, here it is. This is choice A, B, C, D. So this is going to be let's grab both of them, turn them to B. Let's grab both of them. Okay, so this is choice C, and this should be C. I hope you're not getting confused. And this is D. Basically, what we have done is we have selected our elements from our HTML here, and the value for those, the inner HTML of those, is going to come from this questions array, depending on which answer choice they are. So if that is the answer choice A, the value for that is going to come, the inner HTML, the element for that is going to come from choice A and B, and so on and so forth. And finally, what I want to do here is I want to grab our body, and this is where we change the image. So I'm going to say body img. It should be equal to the path of where that image is. So because I'm going to use a template string or a template literal, we are going to use backticks. Now let's add our usual CSS URL, and inside here we are going to pass in our path. But the path, I'm not going to add it, I'm not going to hard code it, because if I just go ahead and if I say like it is inside the images folder and it is the image1.jpg, if I do this, all of the questions, they are going to have the same background image, and this is not something that we want. We want the background image to change based on the question that we have. That's why we have added the question image for each of those specific questions. So each question has a specific background image, and we want that specific background image to be shown. So we are going to access it through this question image. And it is very simple. We are going to use our template literal right here, and we are going to say q dot, because we are accessing the value of a variable, the best way to do that is using a template literal or template string. This is ES6 syntax, and this way we have access to that image. We can, and after we access that image, we are going to say document dot body. This is how we can select the body element of an HTML, and we are going to say style dot background, where is background image, right there, and we are going to set it to body image. All right, So at this point, I don't think that, yeah, it does show. So it shows the first image because we are inserting the active question is the first question. If I change the value of the active question to 1, we are going to see the second image. If I change the value of the active question to 5, we are going to see the fifth image, which is this bird. So what we are going to do is this active question is going to be the value that we will be increasing throughout this entire series. All right. So, but before going forward, what I want to do here is whenever we render this function, I want to grab our start button because at this point we can see the start button. I don't want to see it. So I want to grab the start button and I'm going to say style.display should be equal to NONE. I want to remove it. All right. So now the start button is removed. And I want to do what? I want to do one more thing. I want to grab our quiz.style.visibility. And I'm sure you guys remember that the quiz is visible. The quiz visibility has been set to hidden. Where is the quiz? Yeah. It is hidden. Now what I want to do is I want to unhide it, unhidden it. I want to make it visible. So we are going to set it. Whenever we set visibility to hidden, what is the other value? I'm sure you know this. What is the other value? The other value is visible. And now we will be able to see everything here. So let's decrease the width of this. We can see our question. We can see our answer choices. This progress, this time gauge. We don't see anything else because they are dynamic elements. So whenever we run the render function, we do all that. But we don't have any way of doing it dynamically. So whenever we click on the start button, we want all these to be shown. That we are going to be doing in our following lecture. See you guys then.